Simon leaned forward, skeptical yet curious. He had seen prodigies, illusions, viral sensations, and heartbreak stories that sometimes felt rehearsed. But Mateo did not look rehearsed. He looked fragile, like a glass figurine placed on a cliff edge. Simon asked him why he was here. Mateo's English was soft and slightly broken, but every word carried weight. He said he promised his mother he would sing on the biggest stage in the world one day. He said she used to sing to him when storms flooded their home. He said she could not be there tonight. The room shifted. The judges exchanged glances. The audience leaned in. Simon asked gently where she was. Mateo looked down, and the silence stretched long enough to feel like a hell breath across millions of living rooms. He said she passed away last year. Not from illness. From a storm surge that swallowed their village. His father survived, but could no longer speak after the trauma. Mateo finished by saying he sings now so his father can feel again. There are moments on live television when reality stops feeling like entertainment and starts feeling like destiny. This was one of them. Simon cleared his throat and nodded for him to begin. Mateo closed his eyes, and for a second nothing happened. Then the first note rose, soft as mist, carrying the melody of a song made immortal by Elvis Presley. The familiar tune of Can't Help Falling in Love floated into the air, but it did not sound like imitation. It sounded like memory. His voice was not loud. It was pure. Each word trembled slightly, not from fear but from emotion too big for his small body to hold. The crowd quieted so completely that even the stage lights seemed to hum softer. Judges who had prepared polite smiles found themselves frozen instead. The tone of the boy's voice carried something rare, a raw honesty that bypassed technique and went straight to the chest. He sang the first verse, and a woman in the front row pressed her hand over her mouth. By the second line, a man in the balcony wiped his eyes. By the chorus, the entire theater had fallen under a spell. Simon's expression changed first. His eyebrows lowered, not in criticism but in disbelief. He had spent decades in music, listening to voices crafted by studios and perfected by coaches. But this voice sounded untouched, like rainwater collected in a shell. When Mateo reached the line about falling in love, his voice cracked just slightly. Instead of breaking the moment, it deepened it. That crack sounded like grief speaking through melody. Behind the stage curtain, producers stopped whispering. Cameramen forgot their cues. One of the stagehands later said it felt like time had paused to listen. Mateo moved into the second verse, and suddenly the performance shifted. His voice grew stronger, rising with a quiet power that seemed impossible for someone his size. It was as if every memory, every loss, every hope he carried had turned into sound. The audience did not clap mid-song. They did not cheer. They listened, motionless, because interrupting felt wrong. Simon's eyes glistened. He blinked quickly, trying to keep his composure, but the camera caught the shine. For viewers at home, it was shocking. The man known for brutal honesty and icy critiques was visibly emotional. A murmur spread through the crowd as they noticed. Something extraordinary was happening. Then came the twist no one expected. Halfway through the final chorus, the music cut out. The orchestra track stopped. The background instruments vanished. Only Mateo's voice remained, hanging alone in the silence. Gasps rippled through the audience. Technical failure. It happens. On live shows it can ruin performances, shatter confidence, and expose nerves. A producer backstage cursed under his breath. A stage manager reached for his headset. Mateo opened his eyes. For a split second fear flashed across his face. Simon leaned forward, worried the boy would freeze. But Mateo did not stop. He kept singing. No music, no backing, just his voice filling the enormous theater. And somehow, without the instruments, he sounded even better. Richer, clearer, braver. The notes rose higher, carrying across the rafters like birds lifting into sunrise. The audience realized what was happening and slowly, gently, people began to stand. Not in excitement, in respect. The judges stood too. Mateo reached the final line and held the last note longer than anyone expected. It hovered in the air, trembling, glowing, then faded softly into silence. For 2 full seconds nothing happened. Then the theater erupted. The applause crashed like thunder. People shouted, whistled, cried. Some audience members were openly sobbing. The judges clapped above their heads. Confetti cannons were not scheduled for auditions, but it felt like they should have been. Simon did not clap immediately. He just stared at the boy, eyes wet, lips pressed tight. Finally he stood slowly, almost reverently, and joined the ovation. The camera zoomed in. A tear slipped down his cheek. The crowd noticed. Their cheers doubled. Mateo looked confused, overwhelmed, as if he could not understand why strangers were reacting this way to him. He kept bowing awkwardly, whispering thank you again and again. When the applause finally softened, Simon spoke first. His voice was quieter than usual, rougher. He said he had judged singers for most of his life, and very few made him feel something real. He said Mateo did not just sing a song. He told a story. He paused, swallowing, then admitted he had not cried on television in years. The audience roared again. Another judge asked Mateo what he was thinking when the music stopped. Mateo answered honestly. He said his mother used to sing without instruments because they could not afford them, so when the track cut out, he pretended he was back home listening to her. The theater fell silent again, this time from pure emotion. But the night still held another twist. A stage assistant hurried out with a small envelope and handed it to the host, whispering urgently. The host's eyebrows shot up. He walked to the judge's table and showed it to Simon. Simon read it, blinked, then looked at Mateo with surprise. He stood. The audience hushed. Simon said something unexpected. He said that before the show, they received a letter from someone claiming to be Mateo's father, written with help from a local teacher. In the letter, the father explained he could not travel to America because he had never left his village and was afraid of airplanes, but he wanted his son to know he was watching somehow. Simon said the production team had tracked down a live satellite connection to Mateo's village. The giant screen behind the stage flickered on. Static danced for a moment. Then the image cleared. There, sitting on a wooden chair inside a modest hut lit by a single bulb, was a thin man with tearful eyes. Mateo froze. The audience collectively gasped. His father lifted a trembling hand and placed it over his heart. He could not speak, but his expression said everything. Mateo dropped the microphone and covered his mouth, sobbing. The theater erupted again, louder than before. Simon stepped onto the stage and gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. He told him that talent like his appears once in a lifetime, and courage like his appears even less. Then Simon reached toward the golden buzzer. Time slowed. The audience leaned forward. Mateo's eyes widened. Simon pressed it. Gold confetti exploded from above, raining down like sunlight made solid. The crowd screamed. The judges rushed the stage. Mateo stood frozen under the shower of gold, crying, laughing, shaking all at once. On the giant screen, his father wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, smiling proudly. In that moment, the world did not feel divided by countries or oceans. It felt connected by one boy's voice. As the confetti settled, Simon leaned close and said something only Mateo could hear. Later microphones picked it up faintly. He told the boy never to let anyone tell him he was small, because tonight he filled the biggest room in the world. Mateo nodded, tears still streaming down his cheeks. Backstage, crew members hugged each other. Some admitted they had worked on the show for years and never witnessed anything like it. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of the performance spread across the internet like wildfire. Viewers called it the most emotional audition in television history. Musicians reacted. Celebrities reposted. Radio stations replayed the audio. Teachers showed it in classrooms.